Hello, can you hear me? Let me know if you can. Or, okay, so it looks like we are all good to get a start on this. Thank you so much for introducing it, Katie. My name is Sydney. I am your district editor, and I'm so excited to have you all here. So yeah, we'll just jump right into the workshop with some quick introductions. My name is Sydney. I go to Blake High School, and a fun fact is that I'm a photography student, so just doing all this editor stuff is something that I really love. If you guys want to share a little bit about yourselves.
Okay, my name is Bianca Sanchi. I'm the Division 23B Lieutenant Governor. I've previously been a club president and an editor. I go to Pompano Beach High School, and a fun fact about me is that I dye my hair a lot.
So my name is Katie Palushik from Division 16. I'm the Lieutenant Governor. I have previously been a class director as well as an editor. I go to South Fork High School, and a fun fact is that I love musicals.
Hi, my name is Amelia Packham. I am president at Timber Creek High School. I've previously served as vice president and editor. I obviously go to Timber Creek High School, and fun fact is that I am a triplet.
Yes, so as you can see, all of us presenters, we do have editor experience, but we've also all taken those experiences and applied them to different positions and gone different key club paths. So always feel like, you have so much potential to do whatever you set your mind on and just really take it in whatever direction you see is best for you. Just to jump right into our presentation. What is your role in the club as club editor? So you're really the advertiser, the communicator, and the general publicity person. And when we talk about your different tasks as editor, you'll kind of see how that comes into play. But I definitely want you guys all to know that you should be very inspired to be a club editor. I know that at some schools, editor is more of an entry-level position. Maybe you're, an underclassman, but I definitely think that, especially this year, there's so much that you have that you can do as editor. So yeah, just always feel like super inspired and creative with that position. Your weekly responsibilities are going to differ depending on, your personal home club's layout and structure, but that would regularly be attending club meetings, posting a calendar if that's something that your club president asks you to do. A really big one is making those posters, signs, and banners that promote your club events, and then really documenting and photographing your service projects. So whenever you are attending a club service project, make sure that you are recording it for the club, just because it serves as, at the end of the year, you're the one who can kind of keep track of what happened, what went on, and then also you can use those materials when you're publicizing your club. With our monthly responsibilities, you're going to be attending all club board meetings because you are an officer of your key club, attending Kiwanis Club meetings when possible, providing updates on what's going on in your club, updating your club social media page. And honestly, this is something, if your club doesn't have an Instagram account or maybe a Facebook, I highly recommend starting one because it's such a key way now to really get membership involvement up. And then sending photos to me for the Sunshine Source, our district Instagram, and other publications. Again, that's a great way to get your club personally highlighted throughout the district and really recognized for all of your accomplishments. And then produce a club newsletter. So actually one of our presenters, Katie, was also a club editor. So we can go here and see. This is one of the newsletters that she did. I don't know if you want to explain it, Katie, or if you want me to kind of go through it.
I can just say real quick. So basically what I did was I wanted to keep it short and sweet so that my club would just kind of read through it, get all the important information, but you want to make sure that it is aesthetically pleasing and is cute. What I did is every month I had a different theme. So this month I did like spring, and then like I had a calendar and then listed out all the different service projects and things that were going on. And then at the very end, I always made sure to include contact information for our club, links to my LTG's newsletter now, but MEB, as well as the Sunshine Source. So yeah.
Thank you so much. So yeah, just keep in mind that with your newsletter, and we'll talk a little bit more about the design of that, but just including everything that you feel like your club members are going to need to really get a good sense of Key Club and be motivated to continue their service, things like that. I don't know why it's my little keyboard commands weren't working for a second, but we're about to get right along. With your additional responsibilities, training your successor is a really big one and something that we like to emphasize within the club, just because Key Club is a lot about leaving your legacy and really thinking about how you're creating a lasting impact. So just passing down the little tips and tricks you learn as editor is going to be so beneficial to your club in the long run. And then the scrapbook, that is a decon award potentially, but also even if you don't end up submitting it, it is such an incredible thing to be able to look back through the years of your personal Key Club and then sort of add to that collection. My home club has scrapbooks from when we were first chartered, and that's always so incredible to look back at. So know that you're really leaving your mark as an editor and really shaping the culture of your Key Club and how it's remembered. And then you're also going to want to create club advertisements. That could be videos, flyers, social media posts, again, just to promote your club throughout your school and your community. We all know that Key Club is such a great organization to be a part of because of all of the positive impact we have on the community. So the more you're, promoting that to your school, the more people can join and, help with that message. With public service announcements, local press, and community newspapers, that's something that's sometimes overlooked and forgotten, but contacting the press can be such a beneficial thing, and that kind of goes into our newspaper and media recognition slide. If you've ever seen your local news at a Kiwanis event or a Key Club event, you know that it's such like a great moment for those clubs because, you're getting recognized in your community. Also with school publications, most schools do have a morning show, a student newspaper, and other student-ran publications that are great ways to promote your message of the club. So definitely, and I'll show you here. This is I used to be the assistant editor-in-chief of my school's newspaper, so I wrote a little article basically just talking about a Key Club event and including a picture. But definitely try and involve your school publications and other resources like that because it really does help with just promoting what you're doing. Oh, sorry everybody. And going forward from that, we have the Sunshine Source. So the Sunshine Source is our district's official bi-monthly newsletter. And what that means is every other month, I create a publication that highlights some important Key Club information, spotlights some clubs that reach out to me with their photos. And so I'll show you that right here with the Sunshine Source once it loads. But so here you can see one of our club spotlights from our last issue, and we have a lot of pictures that the club sent me, and then I wrote a little article just based on, the service projects that they held. But if you want more recognition for your club, I highly recommend reaching out to me or reaching out to your lieutenant governor to reach out to me so that you can be included in the Sunshine Source. And definitely give that a look for some reference when you are designing your own club's publications, because it's just a great way to be inspired and inspire other people if you're in it. With using newsletters, this is gonna be one of those tasks that helps you improve your club's communication. So you're keeping your club members not only interested, but also updated on what's going on at the club level, what you guys are talking about at board meetings and discussing, and what you need to promote to the club. And that includes, division-wide and district-wide events that maybe a general member wouldn't have so much knowledge about. And I personally highly recommend using MailChimp because it is such an easy format and something that you can create an email list for, so you can make sure your newsletter is being sent to everybody. I know that some clubs have a physical newsletter, which might not be the best option this year, considering the circumstances, but definitely work with your other officers to sort of analyze the needs of your club and your club's members and determine the best option for you. So we're gonna go into some do's and don'ts. So please do include pictures from past events. Pictures are such a great way to get everyone in your club, able to see what has happened before, especially for new members who maybe don't know what Key Club's all about, or specifically Key Club at your school. That's a great way to show what a service project looks like. And then we do have graphic standards, and I included the steps to get to our graphic brand guide from our Florida District website. So definitely, if you can, take a picture of that, and this presentation will be available. So just have that for your reference, because the website is a great resource that you're going to want to refer back to when you are creating your publication. You should always try and include a message from your president. They are the face of your club, so it's great to have all of your members aware of who the president is and their sort of plans and goals for the year. And then always try and advertise your information for future events. That could be upcoming meeting dates, upcoming Kiwanis events, and upcoming service projects. You should send it out by email if possible. And a great way to get everyone's email contact information is by using a Google form when you're doing your club rush or your club signups. That's something that's worked for me in the past, so I recommend that. Do create a catchy title. So try and think about maybe something that relates to your school or Key Club, and just come up with something that'll stick in the club members' memories. Include your Key Club logos. Those are also available in the same website, club editor resource tab. So you can include those. And then, make sure you're sending it to all of your members, of course, but don't forget to include your faculty advisor, Kiwanis advisor, lieutenant governor, and me, your district editor. I would love to see what you're working on as an editor. And if anyone requests a copy, you should always include them on that. Yeah. So a big don't is not to make your newsletter too long. If you make your newsletter too long, you're sort of risking losing those readers throughout the end. People might not stay to read what's at the very bottom, and sometimes, that's a lot of important information. So consider putting maybe your upcoming dates first and leaving less relevant stuff to the bottom. But if your newsletter is shorter and more concise, you're increasing your readership. Don't leave it to the last minute to complete. I know that can be the more desirable option sometimes, but when you're putting something out for your club that looks presentable, your club members are going to feel that, they're going to respect that, and you want to be proud of what you're putting out visually. With the pages being cluttered, I definitely recommend, especially when you're using the email format, going for a simple design, just so it's visually appealing to everybody. You're not really allowed to alter the Key Club graphics. So again, refer to that brand guide to see what you can and can't do. It really explains it very well. So you should be good on that. And then we say, don't stress, just do your best. If you look back, please don't, but if you look back at the newsletters that I made when I was a club editor, that was like 3 years ago, they're not super nice. So don't beat yourself up if your first newsletter is not perfect or not everything you want it to be. Obviously, as you learn more, you're going to grow as a designer. So just don't even stress about it. And then acronyms without typing out the whole phrase. So you might say, hey, sign up for KCKC, and your club members might read that and be like, well, what's KCKC? Some of you guys might not know what KCKC is either. That's our Key Club Kickoff Conference. So just make sure you're presenting information in a way where you're assuming the member probably doesn't know. General tips: always ask your lieutenant governor for help or advice if you need it. All of the LTGs are so happy to help and so eager to help you guys out. So definitely reach out to them if you have any questions or concerns. When making a schedule for your newsletters, just work that into what you think is going to be doable for you, and trying to stay consistent with that, because that's going to put your club, you're going to present your club really nicely if you have that set in stone schedule. And then share your newsletter with your school. It's great when your school personally is shouting out your Key Club too. It really helps a lot with, again, promoting it to the club, and that's one of your big tasks as being an editor. So just, sharing that. You could share that with your student government association, maybe some administrators, just anyone who really, can promote your Key Club as well. And then we can look at our Lieutenant Governor newsletters for some inspiration. Here you can see, for example, this is my Division 14B, so Daniel's my Lieutenant Governor, and you can see he uses MailChimp to make his newsletters. So you can kind of refer to your Lieutenant Governors. You should all be copied on that email when they send it. So definitely get inspiration if you can. And a really big thing that I like to promote is including pictures. I think that pictures make a newsletter so much more compelling and so much more motivational. So if you're trying to get a bunch of club members to, let's say, join a service project, I feel like they're going to be more inclined to do so if they have some examples of happy, smiling Key Clubbers on the page itself. So I do recommend that. And then colorful and visually striking. So the colors that you use are going to create a certain tone and vibe to your newsletter. So, maybe try and stay away from darker colors and go for maybe some bright colors, or just your Key Club colors or your school colors, anything that really evokes that sense of Key Club pride and just gets people motivated. How can you go about producing a newsletter? I, of course, am going to recommend MailChimp, but you can also use the various Microsoft apps. You can use Canva. You can use Adobe Illustrator if you have that available to you. But yeah, there's not really one set in stone way to make a newsletter. Whatever you feel comfortable with is going to work just well. And then how can we go about that? So MailChimp provides templates, so does Canva. A lot of these resources will provide templates that you can use, but I definitely recommend saving your newsletters as a PDF, because you can send that out. Let's say someone's like, oh, I wasn't a member back then, but I'd love to see your newsletter. If you have that PDF saved on your computer, it might be easier to recall than, scrolling through your email box and looking at everything you've sent out. So definitely always save a backup as a PDF as well. And then with the templates, you can definitely make your own. I recommend that you make your own rather than use, an already provided template, because again, the more original your newsletter is, people aren't going to be used to seeing it. They're going to associate your newsletter with, what you're doing at your Key Club, rather than using a template that maybe they've seen before. They'd associate it with just whatever they've seen it before in. And then social media. So social media is such a big way now to really promote your Key Club. So if you don't have a social media, or maybe it's not so active, definitely start one and keep it active. I try to advise that you post once a week. That could be a graphic advertising your next event. It could be pictures from a previous event. Really, it could just be something motivational. Really, you have free will to do whatever you, anything that's Key Club appropriate in your social media posts. So just use it as a way to engage with your members. You can do social media contests and upload things to Instagram stories for, say, like surveys, and just anything that really keeps up engagement. And then with hashtags, you can make a specific hashtag for your school. So for example, my school uses hashtag Blake HS Key Club, but also use the hashtag Be the Key. That's an international Key Club hashtag, so you'll be recognized in that sense. And then also when you're working with our governor's project, Keys for Kids, you should use hashtag FLKC Keys for Kids. And then always tag us at Florida Key Club. You could have a chance to be spotlighted on our district Instagram, which is always fun. And we definitely love checking out what you guys are working on, so I do recommend that. And then with our brand guide that I was talking about, so we have some specific Key Club approved fonts that you kind of have to use for the body text, but for things like your headers, your headlines, and anything decorative, you can use whichever fonts you want. And then this is the link to the international brand guide, and that's also attached with the club editor section of our Florida District website. Some examples of social media, that could be the Facebook page or group that's open to members. I love those social media aspects that have more of a group section because it makes your Key Club feel like a community. And then also Twitter and Instagram, that would be more like promoting your club to not only the members but also to the community itself. And then again, if you don't have social media, definitely bring that up to your other officers. I think it's such a great idea to have social media now. So, distinguished editor. So this is an honor that you can get. I'm sorry if you hear my dog. But this is an honor that you can get as a club editor just for, keeping up with your tasks and going, above and beyond in your role as a board member. So you would be recognized at the district conference. And once those requirements do come out, and it should be out soon, so keep up with your lieutenant governor for updates on that. Once we do get those guidelines, that's a great way to follow and sort of maintain what tasks you should be fulfilling as editor throughout the year. So just kind of using it as a checklist and making sure you're hitting all those points so that not only you're ensuring that you get this award at the end of the year, but also that you're doing everything as, an editor that is recommended. So, yeah. Thank you guys all so much for attending. Remember that you have to use the check-in link just to get credit for being here. And, we thank you so much. We're going to have a Q&A panel. So our lovely panelists will be discussing some questions, and feel free to leave some. And then also, if you want to talk about what would personally help you in the future, if that would be more of a specific newsletter training or anything like that, please let me know, let us know. You can let us know in the Q&A panel, or you could, send me an email. I'll show you our contact information is on the next slide. But yeah, we're going to be going into the Q&A in a second. If you guys want to take a picture of this screen, it just has our contact information. But yeah, I'm going to open it up to the Q&A if everyone is good with that. Are the panelists ready to do the Q&A? Let me know. Yes. Okay, perfect. So I will stop sharing my screen and we can just get into it. Do we have questions in the...
So there was one question. Let me turn my video on, sorry. So there was one question about how does MailChimp and Canva differ? And Bianca answered this a little bit by just quickly typing it, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit more because I think it's something that a lot of people would maybe want to know more about. So MailChimp is more like direct in sending emails out. So through MailChimp, you can create an email to send out, and you are a little bit more limited on what you can do in MailChimp. They offer like less fonts and things like that, but it's still a really, really great way to create professional emails. And then you can directly link, create an email list. So you can collect all your emails from your club members and just directly put it in there so that every time you send something out, you just click a button button to send to the whole group, and it sends it out like that. Whereas Canva is more like something you can use to create graphics to go in into your newsletter. So for example, what I did when I was editor and what I do now for my monthly newsletters as an LTG is I usually create the different pages of my newsletter in Canva. This way I have more access to different fonts, and it's easier for me to manipulate the different things that I want to add, and it's easier for me to edit it. And then I save them as images and upload them to MailChimp, and I usually send it out that way. MailChimp is also really good because you can include links. If you do use Canva and you save it as an image, I do not include links because they won't be able to click on them. But that's kind of an explanation of those two things. I highly suggest you go look at them and just play around with them on your own, and just get used to it. I think that's kind of the best way to learn how to use them.
Yes, I definitely agree. Thank you so much. Do we have, okay, we have another question if anyone wants to take this one.
Yeah, I'll answer. I think that's great that you send out like little reminders to your groups, but I also think that adding a structured newsletter, like not to be monthly, I think a bi-monthly newsletter would still be good just to keep your club also updated on past events. Like I feel like while the announcements that you send out, like my club does both, the announcements will keep people coming to new events, but the newsletters I feel like make them feel more involved because they see what the club actually does following those events. And it also allows you to send out like district information through those newsletters.
Yeah, to follow up on that, I think it's great to have little announcements because people read them really quickly and they can get the information they need. But by having a bi-monthly newsletter, it makes your club look more professional and structured, which I know a lot of members are looking for right now, given the current circumstances. They want a club that's very organized and professional. So I would recommend doing both together.
So another question, should we send our newsletters to the district editor? And absolutely yes. I know last year when I was editor, I had a really good relationship with the previous district editor, and he really helped me out a lot. And I know like every time I sent one out, he would respond every month and tell me that it looked great, and it just made me feel so good to know that that someone appreciated all the hard work that I did. And I know Sydney definitely would love to read those from you. So definitely send them to Sydney. And her email is previously linked is editor@floridakeyclub.org. And also copy your lieutenant governor on that as well.
Yes, and to add to that real quick, if you're ever wondering like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing with the newsletter, I don't know if this looks good, you can always send it to me too, and I can give you some advice on that as well. But yes, I love to see your stuff.
And also be sure to send any pictures that you take of anything to Sydney because she's gonna love to put those in the Fill Up the Sunshine source, and send them to your LTG as well so they can put them in the service spotlight for their newsletters, which you should also be reading.
Okay, so for the question, do we have advice on getting people to actually read our newsletters? I think that, not only just doing the newsletter, but also combining that with the social media promotion. So let's say you're putting out a newsletter, I would send, a group message like, hey club, I just put out this newsletter, please check it out. It has a bunch of important information. I would go on Instagram and I would post, either a story or a formal post just stating that you do want to, emphasize that people should be reading that newsletter. And then at meetings too, I would talk about it. If you guys do a PowerPoint, ask your president to give you a slide just talking about the newsletter and, maybe explaining what goes into it or how much you love to do it. I think that, at least with my club, people love seeing other people be motivated about something. So if you're expressing like, hey, I love making this newsletter so much, please check it out, I think people will definitely want to do that.
I just also want to add really quickly, if you include like interactive things in your newsletter, I feel like that would really help. So if you mention at your, like Sydney said, at your club meeting, that you're sending your newsletter out, and just say, hey, there's a Google Forms that I'm attaching, please fill it out, and tell RSVP to our next service project or something like that. That'll definitely, I think that'll definitely help.
Yeah, going off of that, something that I used to do in my newsletters is that we would put a little hidden message somewhere in it that if you responded to, you would get either a little shout out or a prize, like a keychain. And that worked really well for us because it ensured that people were reading the email pretty thoroughly since it was hidden somewhere. And we got a lot more feedback once we started doing that. So it's definitely something I would recommend.
All right, so the next question,
Okay,
where is
so
it?
we also
Oh, sorry.
got the question, where is the guideline for club editor? Do you mean just like your specific job task? Because Key Club International does put out a like a little resource pamphlet style document that you can kind of flip through and go over what your monthly tasks are, similar to this presentation, that I can send in the chat if that's what you're referring to. But if there's some other like guideline that you were looking for, just specify in the Q&A so that I can give you that resource. But I'll go pull that from Key Club International right now. And oh, to the panelists, because we just got the question about distinguished editor. Were any of you guys named distinguished editor? If you want to talk about that.
I can. So I was, and I heard about it afterwards. It was a little bit different because we didn't have decon in person. But so a lot of your responsibilities, which Sydney has gone over in the presentation, in order to get distinguished club editor, you have to be doing those tasks and responsibilities. Definitely sending out a newsletter is one of them. As well as doing a certain number of service hours, which should be easy for you guys. I mean, we're in Key Club, we love service. And so that was just really rewarding for me. And I am so glad that I applied for it because I wasn't going to at first, but I'm so glad that I did because it felt so good to know that all of the hard work that I've put into this position has really paid off, and that I was being recognized by the Florida district. So that definitely felt really good.
The biggest advice I would give is to make sure you're going to Key Club events, like you're going to divisional council meetings, you're going to the Key Club kickoff conference, you're going to Spring Zone Rally, because those can get you a lot of booster points when you're applying to Distinguished. And I would also recommend make sure you're looking at the guidelines once they're released. I know they're not up yet, but once they get out, you should definitely review them so that you can kind of keep a checklist throughout the year and kind of monitor how you're doing and make sure you're filling in all the points that you can get.
Okay, so I just put that Key Club International resource in the chat for you guys. And is there a specific deadline for bi-monthly newsletters when publishing it? So to my knowledge, no, not, I mean, everything that you're doing in your officer position sort of, at least for the distinguished editor position, that sort of ends in March, if I'm not wrong about that. So I guess that could be considered a deadline, but there's not when publishing it. I mean, you really set that guideline for yourself with what works best for your club. And so I would talk to your club president about the timeline you want to go for. I think I did mine at the beginning of the month just because that's when we like to emphasize all of our service projects. We would do it like, okay, it's October, everybody. We're doing, this for Trick or Treat for UNICEF this week. And then, the week after that, we're volunteering here and there. So it was kind of like at the beginning of the month sort of thing. But I guess just work with your fellow officers and determine what timeline works best for you.
What I did What for mine personally? Well, first of all, if you look at the calendar, there's like a major holiday usually every other month. So that like will give you a good like idea of a theme. And then I would send mine out on the 10th. So I'd work on it like that first week. And then after I got my newsletter from my LTG, I would add that any information from that into my newsletter. So you want to get it out like pretty early, like I'd say the first half of the month. And then again, like a good way to keep you on track is just do one whenever there's a major holiday.
Yes. Yeah, that's good advice. And we have another question. Does my lieutenant governor have all of the officers' emails when sending out a newsletter across your division? So they should have all of your officers' information if you guys filled out that officer information form at the beginning of your Key Club year. So if, I would work with your club secretary and president to make sure that you guys did fill that out properly. And then yes, your lieutenant governor will have your email. If maybe you're not getting your LTG's newsletter, if that's the issue, then confirm that you're listed on the OIF. And if you're not, talk to your lieutenant governor about that. Let them know that, hey, I updated my email, I updated my contact information, I'm still not getting these emails, so that they can add you in. And so we have the question now, what should we include in the newsletter? So do any of you guys want to answer that one? Katie, yes.
Sure. So I definitely, for me, I always had started with a title. So I introduced it, whatever the month was. And then I would start with all of the most important information first. So all of the dates of your club meetings, of any service projects, all of that information I would put at the very beginning, just to make sure that even if your members are just quickly glancing over it, they still have all the most important information right there. Then I typically went through and kind of included a brief description of whatever was happening that month. So any service project or anything like that, especially when it came around to registering for decon and paying for it and things like that, I definitely made sure to include information about what decon was and how to register for it, and then all that information. And then at the very end, I always made sure to include contact information. My club has an Instagram, a Google Classroom, and a Remind. So I made sure to include all of that information as well, so that all the members had access to it. And then I always included my LTG's newsletter, as well as the Sunshine Source links at the very bottom to help make sure everybody reads it, because you want everyone to be reading those.
Yes, thank you. And then our next question, how can we go about following up on newsletters and publications to make sure people have read them? And that's a great question. Actually, if you use MailChimp, you can see which emails have opened your newsletter, and you can see how many times they opened it, which links they click on and which links they don't. And so you can kind of monitor, if you want to get so specific, you can monitor who's actually reading it. But, sometimes I guess just even asking at a club meeting, I know I say that a lot, but that's always what I did. I would always talk about it during my club meeting. So maybe that'll work for you. But just saying like, hey, did you guys see this? Because you want to kind of create a family environment where people aren't shy to tell you, like, no, I haven't read it. Like, I think we got to a point where my members of my club were kind of like, oh, no, like, we didn't have time, or, oh yeah, we did read it and we really liked it. So I guess that kind of goes into creating a Key Club environment that people are comfortable with you in. But you can definitely utilize MailChimp to really see who's reading it or not reading it. Other than MailChimp, like let's say you're using Canva, I don't know if you'd have a way to see who's opening the email itself.
One thing that I did it like a few different times. I didn't do it every time, but I heard from other people it's a good idea, is include like a little something at the bottom of your like newsletter. It's like a secret hint. So, like include a key and have them text you if it's like where it is, or like a trivia question, have them text the remind for your club like if they found it, so you like know that they're actually reading it.
Yes, that's good. So yeah, just using little design techniques. Do we have any other questions? Okay, so our question is it better to publish a newsletter at the beginning of the month or the end of the month? And personally, I like to do the beginning of the month because you can still recap. Like, let's say you put it out right on October 1st. You can still recap the previous month and it's still fresh in people's minds, but you can also give all of the necessary information for that month. Did any of you guys do more of an end of the month publication? Okay, so I guess personally, yeah, I'd recommend doing the beginning of the month. If you do the end of the month, just make sure you're still going over what the upcoming events are. It just makes it easier if you're doing it at the beginning of the month because you won't be, talking about 2 months. You'd just be talking about the 1 month that you're focusing on.
Yeah, and I would say too, also make sure that you are thinking about when you're receiving your newsletter from your lieutenant governor, because I always like to include them, and you should be getting those by the 7th of every month from your lieutenant governor. So for me personally, I set my own deadline for myself, and I talked about it with my club, that we always gave ourselves the deadline of the 10th of the month, just so that we knew that we would have all the information from our lieutenant governor, and that really helped to keep us organized.
Okay, so if we get another question now, we'll answer it. But if not, I think we are good to go with this webinar. So yeah, just quickly put in your questions if you do have anything last minute, but if not, I think we're good. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm inspired to see just editors working on making their clubs, just a fun place to be a part of and promoting that message throughout their school. So, it excites me that you guys are coming to this webinar and trying to learn more. Definitely refer to this PowerPoint if you feel yourself getting lost. Email me. I'm always here for you guys. And our incredible panelists, if you ever have any questions, we can always answer them. If you send them to me, I can let them know that we got some more questions. But thank you guys so much for attending, and yeah, just thank you.
We do have one more quick question in the Q&A thing real quick, if I can just answer it quickly. And so someone asked, how strict is the Key Club brand guide? I would say it's most strict as far as like fonts. There are some specific fonts that we would like you to use, and that's mainly for the body text. You can kind of use whatever font you would like for like titles or big things like that. But yeah, if there's not necessarily a specific color scheme, there are suggested colors, and if you would like to use those, they are definitely available, and they all flow together nicely. But if you do want to be creative with it, you can be as creative as you want. But the main thing is that we ask you that you don't alter like the logos too much. But there's more information on that in the Key Club International brand guide, and I think it explains it pretty well there.
Yeah, so that's good on that. That's good on the brand guide. Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you guys again so much for coming, and thank you to the panelists for being so great with the questions, and for all of our district administrator and everybody who helped put this together. I know it was a lot with the beginning with my mic, so just thank you for bearing with that. Yes. So yeah, I think we're going to say bye. So bye everyone. Thank you.